Welcome to Unbound, the podcast with Beth Curry, author, storyteller, and survivor. This is where books meet real life, where Beth reads chapters from her work and breaks free from the traditional audiobook format, diving deeper into the personal experiences, lessons, and liberation behind every page. Nothing is off limits. Let's get unbound.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Unbound. I'm Beth Curry, and today we are going to be reading Chapter 2 of All These Beautiful Things. If you've been following along, you know we started with before, capturing who Mom was before her dementia kind of began rewriting her story. And now I'm going to move into Little Things, which is a chapter that shows both the beautiful foundation of my parents' love story and I guess you could say the heartbreaking reality of Mom's shifting present. This chapter's heavy to me. I won't lie to you about that. It's kind of about the emotional whiplash of dementia, about the impossible choices between honesty and kindness based on previous conversations I had with my mom, and kind of about learning to dance through time with someone whose reality shifts from moment to moment. So I'm going to start by reading the chapter Little Things. Mom always found her way home from Compass Point to her house in Burlington. A drive she could practically do with her eyes closed. Less than 10 minutes each turn, familiar as breathing. But one afternoon, when Dad wasn't answering his phone, those 10 minutes became an eternity. Mom, being Mom, did what any perfectly rational person worried sick about their spouse would do. She pressed the gas pedal a little bit harder, then a little harder still, her mind racing faster than her car, imagining every possible scenario, each one worse than the last. She probably didn't even notice the first police car's lights. By the time the second cruiser joined the pursuit, she had worked herself into such a state of panic that when she finally pulled over, her explanation tumbled out in a rush. "My husband's not answering the phone and I need to get him to check on him. And please, you don't understand. I need to get there now." Something in her voice, that mixture of terror and love and completely mom-like concern, must have touched the officers. Instead of a ticket, she got a police escort straight to her front door, where they found Dad, perfectly fine. That police escort home was just one episode in Mom's long history of worrying about Dad, and all of us, really. Now that I'm a mother myself, I understand that constant hum of concern that sits in your chest, but Mom elevated worry to an art form. Their love story began at a skating rink, though, like many memories now, the details shift depending on who's telling it and when. Dad was 7 years older, divorced with 2 little boys, while Mom was still in her teens. As soon as I saw her, I knew I was going to marry her someday, Dad would tell me, his voice soft with the memory. When I asked Mom about this, her eyes would sparkle with mischief. "Well, of course he did," she'd laugh, but I didn't feel the same. He was far too old for me. My son Crew proclaims, "Grandpa had riz." For those who don't understand that generation's language, that means charisma. The details of their courtship have grown fuzzy in Mom's mind now. The timeline of dating before engagement slipping into that space where lost memories go. But certain things remain crystal clear. She was just 21 on her wedding day, barely more than a girl herself, stepping into the roles of wife and barely stepmother in one breath. That wedding dress that she kept in the bottom drawer for Jennifer and me to try on held the beginnings of our family's story within its folds. Their first home together was an apartment on Woodward Avenue in downtown Burlington near the mall. It was there that they started building their life together with a big white cat named Tisha as their first shared responsibility. Almost 2 years into their marriage, they welcomed Jennifer, Mom becoming a mother in her own right while still learning to navigate her role as a supportive wife to a man with 2 other boys he loved. 52 years. That's how long they had together before Dad's unexpected passing. 52 years of worry and laughter, of skating rinks and police escorts, trips, bickering, and support, of building a family that would eventually heal and expand in ways none of them could have imagined back in that Woodward Avenue apartment. Life shifted to Quigley Road not long after Jennifer's arrival to one of those big white apartment buildings that would become the backdrop of my earliest memories. I came along 2 years after Jen, completing our family circle. Our apartment was unique. Seventh floor, but split across 2 levels, those wooden stairs becoming part of our daily symphony. My bedroom there had a door to the outside, and some of my first memories are of lying in my crib watching the lights pulse on the radio tower in the distance, like a heartbeat made of light, marking time while the city slept. Mom would sing me to sleep, her voice mixing with the urban lullaby of distant traffic and wind. You were your dad's little buddy, Mom tells me now, her face soft with the memory. You'd run up those wooden stairs when hockey was on, banging your hands on every single step before diving onto the bed beside him. She laughs, then adds with characteristic honesty, sometimes it made me a little sad, seeing how you gravitated to him. But then Jen and I were close, so it all balanced out. The memories tumbled together like clothes in a dryer. Park outings, bus rides through the city, trips to the mall, Mum pushing strollers, juggling shopping bags, always singing. Sometimes now, when she talks about those days, the details shift and blur, but she never forgets how the dynamics played out. The special bond I shared with Dad, her connection with Jen, the way love finds its own patterns in a family. Thump, 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 thump. The sound of those wooden stairs lives in my muscle memory. I can still feel the vibration in my palms, still hear the hollow echo of each slap against the wood, the rhythm of childhood, percussion of pure joy racing up to watch hockey with Dad. Thump, 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 faster and faster, as if the speed of my ascent could somehow make the game start sooner. Mom repeats again as if she hadn't told the story in decades. You would run those stairs every time the Leafs were playing, your little hands just banging away. She mimics the motion, muscle memory, working even when other memories fade. The neighbors must have loved us, she adds with that familiar dry humor. Then after a pause, your father never minded the noise, though. He'd just wait for you to land beside him. The staircase was like a spine running through our split-level apartment, connecting our daily lives. Jennifer walking more sedately, Mom's feet marking her own distinctive rhythm, Dad's heavy footfalls at the end of a workday. But it's my own eager drumming that echoes loudest in memory, that steady thump, 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 thump of a little girl rushing to claim her spot next to her buddy. The memory of those wooden stairs fades as Mom's focus shifts suddenly to her present reality. I hate it here, she says, her voice small in the Willow Grove lobby. She feels adrift in the quiet hours of her days. Nobody visits me, she tells me, her hands fidgeting in her lap. I just sit here, or sleep. That's all I do. I gentle my voice, acknowledge her feelings while carefully offering evidence to the contrary. We visit you regularly, Mom. You have friends who visit too, and I've seen pictures in the newsletter of you doing activities, remember? Like sunlight breaking through clouds, her expression changes. Oh, yes, she brightens, extending her hands to show me her nails. She did my nails. Aren't they pretty? They sparkle a little. Her voice lifts with genuine pleasure. We sit in the bright room, and it's a spa day. I really do like it here. This is how conversations flow now. Memory and emotion shifting like quicksilver, truth becoming whatever feels real in the moment. Mom now navigates her own reality in waves, each moment distinct and separate from the last. Yet even in this uncertainty, glimpses of her essence remain. The way she still notices beauty, still appreciates small kindnesses, still lights up at connection. These sudden shifts in Mom's reality are like emotional whiplash. One moment we're back in the apartment on Quigley Road, the wooden stairs echoing with memory, and the next she's pulled sharply into her present discontent. I've learned to navigate these transitions with her, but each one still catches in my throat, this constant dance between what was and what is. When she tells me nobody visits, my heart clenches. I want to list every visit, remind her of each family member or friend who's been here, pull out my phone and show her pictures, which she can't see anyway since she has vision issues as well. But I've learned that facts don't always help when feelings are running the show. Instead, I find myself becoming like her, the her who used to validate our childhood fears and frustrations before gently redirecting us towards hope. The sparkle in her nails becomes a lifeline for both of us. Her delight in them is genuine, and I grab onto that moment of joy like a life raft. This is what we do now. Collect the good moments, hold them up to the light, let them shine brighter than the shadows of confusion and loss. Sometimes I wonder if she knows how much these shifts affect her, if in these moments of clarity she sees the way her reality fractures and reforms. Does she recognize the panic in my eyes when she says she hates it here? Does she sense how desperately I want to fix this for her, make it better the way she always did for us? But then she'll look at me with those same eyes that watch me bang up wooden stairs, that saw me through every childhood crisis, and for a moment, she's completely my mom again. Present, aware, connected. I really do like it here, she says, and I choose to believe this version. Not just because it's easier, but because in this moment, it's her truth. The emotional toll comes in waves, though. There's the immediate gut punch when she says nobody visits. The instant replay in my head of every recent visit, every family member who's been here, every activity we've shared. It's exhausting, carrying not just my own memories, but hers too, being a keeper of our shared history when she can no longer hold it herself. Sometimes I cry in my car after leaving Willow Grove. Not just for her, but for me. For the daughter who still needs her mom's advice, who wants to share stories about my own family, who misses the way she used to remember everything about everyone. I cry for the grandmother my son is gradually losing, for the family historian whose stories are slipping away, for the woman who once wrote spontaneous poetry and now sometimes struggles to find words at all. But between grief and hope, there's a delicate balance to maintain. When she tells me she hates it there, I've learned not to argue or present evidence to the contrary. Instead, I validate her feelings. Yes, it must be hard. Yes, it's okay to feel this way, while staying alert for any chance to redirect toward light. These shifts have fundamentally changed our relationship. I'm no longer just her daughter. I'm sometimes her memory, her anchor, her navigator through confusing waters. She taught me how to handle life's complexities and now needs me to help her manage her own shifting reality. Our roles have begun to reverse, though I still catch glimpses of her mothering instinct, the way she'll suddenly ask if I'm eating enough or remind me to drive safely, even if she's not sure where I'm driving to. We've both had to adapt. I've learned to meet her where she is in any given moment, to stop trying to force her back to my version of reality. If she thinks it's 1977 and wants to tell me about Jennifer's first day of school, I'll go there with her. If she's worried about Dad not answering his phone even though he's been gone for over a year, I will acknowledge her concern before gently redirecting. I've developed what I call an emotional GPS, constantly recalculating the route as conditions change, always trying to guide us both towards moments of connection. I always want honesty, she told me in one of her clear moments. A simple request that's become one of the most complicated aspects of our new reality. Because what do you do when honesty means watching your mother's heart break a dozen times in an hour? When each truthful answer about Dad leads to the same painful cycle? Where is Dave? He passed away, Mum. What did he die from? Lung cancer. From smoking? Idiot. A flash of anger, then softening. I used to smoke. I quit on April 29th, 1989, at the train station. And then, moments later, where is Dave? Sometimes I choose the gentler lie. He's running an errand, and redirect her attention elsewhere. The guilt sits heavy in my stomach, a betrayal of her lucid request. But watching her relive the shock and grief of losing him over and over, there are some kinds of honesty that feel more like cruelty. I rationalize it in my head. She likely won't remember this moment anyway. She's two different people, really. The one who asked for complete honesty isn't the same woman asking repeatedly about Dad's whereabouts. I struggle, though, because to me, she's just Mom. There are no versions. She's just Mom. Yet late at night, I wonder, am I making these choices for her comfort or my own? Is it easier to lie because I can't bear to watch her heart break again and again? The irony doesn't escape me. Mom, who prized honesty above almost everything else, who taught us to always tell the truth no matter how difficult, has inadvertently taught me that sometimes love looks more like a gentle deception than a harsh truth. It's yet another role reversal. She used to protect us from painful realities. Now I find myself doing the same for her. Having studied various branches of psychology, forensic, developmental, behavioral, cognitive, and trauma-focused, I understand intellectually where this guilt originates. My education in human psychology tells me about cognitive dissonance, the mental discomfort that occurs when our actions conflict with our beliefs. I know about moral injury, the psychological distress that results from actions or lack of action, which violate our moral or ethical code. My training explains why watching mom relive dad's death repeatedly triggers my own trauma responses. But academic knowledge doesn't make it easier. Even with my background and understanding of human behavior patterns, I find myself struggling with the emotional toll of these repeated cycles. Each time mom asks about dad, it's like watching a video loop of grief, hers fresh and raw each time, mine layered with the weight of every previous iteration. The caregiver's burden isn't just physical or logistical, it's psychological. Research shows that relatives of dementia patients often experience something called anticipatory grief, mourning someone while they're still here. We grieve not just what's been lost, but what's actively being lost, moment by moment. My studies in trauma psychology help me understand why these repetitive cycles are so exhausting. Each iteration triggers our stress response system, flooding our bodies with cortisol and adrenaline, even when we intellectually know what's coming. Then there's the guilt. My cognitive behavioral training tells me it's irrational, that choosing kindness over truth in these moments is not a betrayal, but an act of love. Yet that knowledge doesn't stop the guilt from gnawing at me when I redirect her questions about dad or offer gentle deceptions to ease her anxiety. The intersection of my professional knowledge and personal experience creates its own kind of cognitive dissonance. I can explain the neurological processes behind mom's memory loss, can cite studies about behavioral patterns in dementia patients, can understand theoretically why she fixates on certain memories while others slip away. But none of that academic armor protects my heart when she looks at me with confusion and asks for the 15th time where dad is. In my studies of human psychology, I learned about emotional regulation, about maintaining professional distance, about the importance of boundaries. I understand trauma responses, grief cycles, and caregiver burnout on an academic level. But there's no professional distance when it's your own mom forgetting your father is gone, when you're watching the woman who taught you everything slowly lose pieces of herself. My forensic psychology background taught me to analyze patterns, to look for underlying causes of behavior, to maintain objectivity in emotionally charged situations. Yet here I am, constantly toggling between being the analytical observer and the daughter whose heart breaks every time mom's reality shifts. I can explain the psychological concept of sundowning, but that knowledge doesn't make it any easier when mid-afternoon comes and mom's confusion deepens. Sometimes my professional understanding feels like a curse. I can see the progression coming. I can anticipate the stages, can name each new challenge before it fully arrives. Other times it's a blessing, helping me understand that mom's repetitive questions aren't just about memory loss, but about seeking security, that her time loops are her mind's way of trying to make sense of a world that keeps shifting under her feet. The truth is, all my years of studying human behavior never prepared me for this most human of experiences, watching a parent's mind gradually untether from reality while trying to keep my own anchored firmly in both knowledge and love. Mid conversation about the skating rink where she met dad, mom's reality shifts again. Do I still have my parents? The question comes suddenly, like someone changed the channel in her mind. My psychological training recognizes this as perseveration, a repetitive looping of thoughts and questions, combined with temporal disorientation. But this isn't a case study. This is my mom, jumping from young love to fresh loss in the space of a heartbeat. No, Mum, your parents have passed away. Her face falls, grief fresh as morning. In these moments, I see how time isn't linear for her anymore. She can be a young woman meeting dad one minute, then a daughter losing her parents the next. Sometimes we're in her parents' kitchen, sometimes we're nowhere and everywhere at once. Each reality is equally real, equally now. We didn't do a lot of skating, she muses, sliding back into the earlier memory without acknowledging the interruption about her parents. Her mind, like a skater changing direction, glides smoothly between time periods, leaving me to keep up with each turn. I've learned to move with her through these transitions, to recognize that trying to hold her to one timeline only causes frustration for us both. My training tells me this is normal disease progression, but these temporal jumps are typical. But there's nothing in any psychology textbook that fully prepares you for watching your mother navigate through different decades of her life in the space of a single conversation. Each moment is real to her, each memory as fresh as if it just happened. It's beautiful and heartbreaking watching her dance through time like this. Beautiful because these memories, however fragmented, are still so vivid for her. Heartbreaking because I never know which version of her life she'll land in next or what losses she'll have to face anew. 1968, she softly says. Dad and I met in 1968. Before I share my reflections on this chapter, I want you to hear something. I saved a few voicemails from Mom during this beginning period when the repetitive calls were the worst. I will talk a bit more about the phone calls in future chapters. Um, this was November of 2021. I need to be honest about why I saved them. It wasn't out of sentimentality. I saved them in frustration. I was so exhausted, so overwhelmed, and I think part of me needed proof or something that this was really happening. That I wasn't being dramatic about how hard it had become at that point. But now I'm eternally grateful that I have them, even though they make me cry every time I listen to them. Even though hearing her voice like this breaks my heart all over again, because I miss her. I miss the her in these voicemails. Even with all the confusion and the repetition, I'd give anything to get one more call like this.
Your mailbox is full. You can receive no new messages. You have no new messages. And 10 saved messages. Saved message.
Hi, sweetie pie. It's Mom. I'd like to hear your voice. Okay, bye.
Message saved. Saved message.
Hi, my baby girl. This is your mama. Just calling to say I love you and have a good night. And if I don't talk to you before we get into the week, have a good week too. Okay, bye. Love you. Bye.
To delete, press send. Message saved. Saved message.
Hi, babe. It's just Mom. I'm just calling to say I love you and hope you have a good day. If we get a chance to talk, that would be good. And if we don't, that would be okay. We'll catch up later. Bye. Love you. Bye.
Message saved. Saved message.
Hi, Beth. It's your mom. I'm just calling to say hi. How are you? I hope you're having a good week and I love you. So that was all that I wanted. Okay, we'll talk. Hopefully we'll talk to you later. Bye.
Message saved. Saved message.
No worries. It's just your mom. Okay, bye.
To delete, press message saved. Saved message.
Hey, sweetie, it's Mom. I'd really like it if you could contact me. Bye.
To delete, press message saved. Saved message.
Hey, it's Mom. Sorry to bother you. I think I left you a message. Bye.
To delete, press message saved. Saved message.
Hey, you don't need to get back to me, honey. I just wanted to remind you about that show at 8:30 tonight. That special that's on. That's all. Okay, thanks. Bye.
To delete, press message saved. Saved message.
It's just Mom calling to say I love you and have a good sleep. Bye.
Message saved. Saved message.
Honey, I'm just calling you to say good night and I love you, but I can't. All I wanted to do was text you, and I couldn't even send a text. So that's why I'm leaving a message. Have a good night. Love you. Bye.
Message saved. You have no more messages.
Okay, so that was over the span of a day. The same question, the same confusion, the same need for reassurance that kind of evaporated quickly. I would call her back in between when I had opportunity, but the calls just kept happening because it's like she just completely forgot that she had made it and left a message and that I had called her back. And this did go on for a long while before my dad took her phone away from her. Um, Writing about the repetitive calls is one thing, but hearing them is another. Hearing the confusion in her voice, the slight frustration, like the further into the messages, that we got, The way that she's trying so hard to hold on to information that keeps slipping away. Like, this was before we even really knew anything bad was happening to her. I saved them because, like I said, I was concerned and I wanted to play them for dad. Like, just that, so many of these calls had happened. And yeah, like, this was before everything fell apart with her and with him. I guess he knew someday I'd need to remember what this stage felt like, not just for me, but for her too. The repetition, it wasn't stubbornness or not listening or anything like that. It was her brain failing to form these new memories. So, each call felt like the first time to her. She just completely didn't even know she had spoken to me already many, many times that day. So understanding that helped, but it didn't make it any less exhausting. So anyway, moving on to this chapter. So I just want to talk about what it was like to write this and where I am with all of it now. Um, have you ever tried to capture lightning in a bottle? Because writing this chapter was like trying to capture lightning in a bottle. These moments with mom where we go from joy to grief to confusion, and then to clarity, sometimes in the space of minutes. The hardest part wasn't so much documenting at any single moment, but trying to convey that kind of constant emotional whiplash without exhausting, the reader, the way that it exhausts me in real life. So, how do you write about watching your mother cycle through these realities without making it feel repetitive? How do you capture the weight of hearing, "Where is Dave?" for the 15th time or the 50th time in an hour without just listing it over and over and over again, right? So I wanted readers to feel what it was like, that kind of constant recalibration, that emotional GPS that's always rerouting. But I also didn't want to drown them in despair because the truth is there are still moments of light for sure. Her sparkly little nails, those moments of clarity, the way that she can still kind of slide effortlessly from one memory to another, even if the transitions themselves don't always make sense to me. Um, the section about my psychology background, that was probably the most difficult thing I've kind of written about because it's true. Like, all my training, all my understanding of cognitive decline and dementia progression and caregiver burnout and all that shit, like it sometimes feels like a total curse. Like, I keep saying that. Like, I know I'm being repetitive now, like, yikes. But I can see what's coming. I know the stages. I recognize the patterns as they emerge. I know during visits with mom, if my husband's with me, he'll look at me, be like, he's probably seeing it in my face that, ugh, it's I can't, yeah. That's it in a nutshell. So when mom starts a certain type of repetitive questioning, I know it's not just about needing an answer. It's like her seeking security, like I said, kind of trying to anchor herself in a space that's just constantly moving. Like, I can't even imagine what is going on inside my poor mom's head. My training, it didn't prepare me for shit. Honestly, knowing what's coming doesn't make it hurt any less, obviously. Understanding all the neuro processes behind her memory loss, it doesn't protect my heart. And, the constant questions, where's Dave? Like, for the billionth time, like, it's very frustrating, but I gotta stay totally level and calm. Sometimes I wish I could just be a daughter without the clinical understanding that's kind of running parallel to, like, every single damn emotion. Um, other times that knowledge is the only thing that's kinda keeping me afloat, helping me kind of understand it's not personal. Like, I know it's not personal, but, like, when you're kinda stuck in the moment, it feels personal sometimes. That frustration that she shows, it's not about me. It's the loops and the repetitions in her brain trying to make sense of chaos. Like, how hard is it to make sense of nonsense, right? There's been specific moments where my training has made things worse, obviously, like when I catch myself analyzing her behavior patterns instead of just being present with her. Or, if I see a new symptom emerging and kind of immediately know what it means for the progression, it's kind of robbing me of any chance to pretend we have more time than we do. So that kind of blows ass. But there's also times that it truly it does help, like understanding the sundowning thing. It's a real phenomenon. I can plan for visits earlier in the day because I know, that could happen, and knowing about the importance of validation versus correction. I can't even think now. It's changed how I respond to her reality shifts. Recognizing signs of anxiety or agitation before they fully escalate helps me redirect her a little more effectively. It's just this constant crappy dance between being the trained observer and being the daughter whose mom is a space cadet. Like, she laughs when I say that. So put your angry texting thumbs away. You don't have to come at me for that one. She thinks it's hilarious. Some days I manage both. Some days I fail at both. Whatever. And yes, I still cry in my car after visits sometimes. Not every time, but enough that it's become, part of the ritual. I'll walk out of Willow Grove, I'll get to my car, close the door, and just let it out if it's gotta happen. Sometimes it's quiet. Sometimes it's ugly crying. It makes my whole body shake. I'll punch the steering wheel in my car. When my husband comes with me or when a friend accompanies me on a visit, they always know. I don't have to say anything. They know. As we're leaving, I'll just feel a hand squeeze mine or an arm around my shoulders. And someone will just be there when I fall apart a little, or even, keep me from falling apart, which, if you know me, is ideal. Um, but yeah, those hugs on the way out, they're lifelines. There's something about having someone witness both the visit and the aftermath that makes it a bit more bearable. They see how hard I'm working to stay present and positive with mom and for mom, and then they're there to catch me when I can't hold my shit together anymore. Anyway, the car has become kind of the strange in-between space, like not Willow Grove anymore, where I have to be strong and clear and the keeper of all the things, and also not home yet, where I have to function and be mom to my own son and show up for my life. It's just kind of this bubble where I can feel everything fully for a few minutes before pulling myself back together after losing my schmidt. Um, yeah, mom is saying I always want honesty. That request has haunted me through every decision that I've made since. The "Where is Dave" loop, God, that's the hardest one. Like, do I tell her the truth every single time and watch her heart break over and over? Do I lie and betray the explicit wish for honesty that she had? Like, is there even a right answer here? I still struggle with it. I'm not gonna pretend that I've figured this out or found some perfect solution, but I have found something like peace with the uncertainty, if that makes sense. Um, now I basically wing it. I know that probably sounds terrible. Like, I should have some consistent approach, some carefully thought out strategy. But the truth is, like, what works depends entirely on where mom is at in any given moment. And nobody can predict what that's going to look like ever. Sometimes I can tell she needs the truth, even though it hurts. And sometimes I can see that a gentle redirection will serve her better than facts that will just re traumatize her. I've even gotten kind of silly with it sometimes. If she asks where Dave is and she seems anxious but not in acute distress, I might say, he's up in the great golf course in the sky. Or he's up there giving God hell about the Maple Leafs playoff chances or something, although, he's a Boston Bruins fan, so whatever. It sounds irreverent maybe, but sometimes that lightness is kind of exactly what she needs, and it's what I need to get through the moment without both of us drowning in grief. So yeah, the guilt is still there. Every time I choose a gentle lie over a harsh ass truth, part of me feels like I'm betraying her. But I've come to understand that the woman who asked for complete honesty is not the same woman asking about Dave in that moment. Like, dementia's created all these different versions of mom. And to me, she's always just mom. But I still have to respond to whoever she is in that specific moment. Um, I hope that makes sense. I don't know. I was kind of rambling there, so even lost my own train of thought. Like I said, some days I get it right, some days I probably get it wrong, but I'm learning to forgive myself for the impossible position that we're all in. Um, Reading this chapter aloud today was kind of weird in ways I didn't fully anticipate. So, like, when I was writing it, I could control the pace. I would write a paragraph, cry, walk away, come back, whatever. But reading it straight through kind of forces you to sit with it all at once, and that felt kind of gross. Um, the section about crying in my car, like, I was gonna stop recording this, because I'm not just reading about it. I'm remembering, like, every specific time. Like the day she asked about dad 17 times in like 45 minutes. The visit where she was so confused that she didn't recognize me for like the first 10 minutes of the visit. And I almost like had to leave because I thought, like, what is the point? You know, the afternoon she was so clear and present that I forgot for a moment that like anything was wrong with her. And then she asked, "Do I still have my parents?" And I watch her relive that loss fresh. Like, it's wild. It's really a trip. Um, just thinking there's one line that kind of, absolutely destroyed me both times I've read it. It's beautiful and heartbreaking watching her dance through time like this. Beautiful because these memories, however fragmented, are still so vivid for her. Heartbreaking because I never know which version of her life she'll land in next or what losses she'll have to face anew. Because that's exactly it. That's the whole thing in 2 sentences. And saying out loud makes it real in a way that, like, even writing it didn't quite capture. I think if I could change anything about this chapter, I'd probably add more about the good visits. Kind of like I said in the last episode, the days where she's mostly herself. We kind of laugh about old memories and the confusion is minimal. Those days do exist too, and they're kind of what keep me going right now. But when you're in the thick of the hard stuff, it's easy to forget that light still breaks through sometimes. It's been almost a year since I wrote that chapter, and things have continued to shift, not dramatically. Dementia is kind of more of a slow erosion than a sudden collapse, but there are definite changes. Mom's had more good days than when I first started documenting our visits, actually, or maybe I've just gotten better at recognizing and celebrating them. I don't know. She still gets confused. She still leaps through questions and time travels like crazy through decades and like single conversations. But there's also moments or even entire visits of startling clarity, of her old humor just kind of shining through. Connection feels as solid as it ever did. Our relationship continues to evolve too. I'm more comfortable now with the role reversals, with being kind of her anchor instead of her always being mine. I've learned to appreciate the weird beauty in some of her confusions, like when she talks about her parents as if they're still alive and tells me stories I've never heard before. Are they true? Does it matter? In that moment, they're real to her, and I get to hear about her childhood from the perspective of someone who's somehow both elderly and young, all at the same time. Um, my son, Crew, he's developed his own kind of relationship with her that exists separate from the dementia. He doesn't know the before version as well as I do. He did spend a lot of time with my parents, though, when he was younger. But he just loves the Nana he has. There's something instructive in that, like his ability to kind of meet her exactly where she is without mourning who she used to be. He thinks she's funny. He feels the lighter side of this shit disease, and I love that for him. I really do. He doesn't need the hard stuff. Like, he's only 19. He doesn't. Anyway, I've got some questions. This episode's gonna be pretty long, but I've got some questions that came in after the last episode. Um, Keep them coming. Questions, comments, anything you want, just gives me a little something extra to talk about. You can email me at unboundwithbethcurry@gmail.com or just post in the Facebook group. All the information is in the show notes. I'm going to start with Rachel. This message from Rachel. Beth, how do you balance being present with your mom while also protecting your own mental health? It sounds exhausting. The hell you say, Rachel. You're right. It is exhausting. And honestly, I don't always get the balance right. Um, some things that do help, I kind of limit visit length when I know I'm already depleted, or I may not even go. Bring backup when I can, my husband, a friend, my son. Having someone else there kind of changes the dynamic in ways that can be protective for me. And yeah, I let myself continue to have those car cries, instead of trying to hold it together all the way home if I need them. Mostly though, I've had to accept that this work is hard and there's no way to do it without it taking a toll. Uh, the goal isn't to emerge unscathed, obviously, like that's friggin' impossible. The goal is to show up as fully as I can while also being kind of honest about, what it costs. Talk therapy helps, and I get a load of that from my best friend. So does writing, both the book and now this podcast, writing these episodes and stuff. Just, giving shape to the chaos makes it slightly more manageable. um, Next message or question is from David. My mom has dementia too, and I struggle with the same honesty question. How do you decide in the moment which approach to take? David, I wish I had a formula for you, but I really do just wing it, like I said, based on reading her energy in that moment. Some questions I ask myself: does she seem anxious or relatively calm? Is she asking because she needs reassurance or because she's genuinely seeking information? Will the truth serve any purpose other than causing pain? Can I redirect her attention elsewhere without lying outright? Those kinds of questions. Sometimes I'll answer a question with a question just to kind of buy some time. Like I would say, what made you think of Dave just now? That often leads her actually into a memory that satisfies whatever prompted the original question. And sometimes, like with the golf course in the sky approach, I found that a gentle, slightly playful truth lands a little bit better than, that harsh fact or an outright lie. It kind of acknowledges the reality while softening it too. And, my mom knows I have a bit of a twisted and inappropriate sense of humor. And, I guess she can kind of expect that kind of stuff's still going to happen. But the hardest part is forgiving yourself when you choose wrong, because you will sometimes. We all do sometimes. Next question is from Melissa. I think Melissa's read my book as well. Does your psychology background ever help you see beautiful things in the disease that other people might miss? Very thoughtful question. Yes. My training helps me recognize that mom's time traveling, as I like to call it, is not just confusion. It's her poor broken brain just trying to make sense of all those little fragments, all those pieces, creating connections that feel meaningful even when they don't follow a linear logic, if that makes sense. There's something almost poetic about it sometimes. I also notice the ways her core personality kind of remains intact, even while she's losing her marbs. Again, don't come at me with your angry texting thumbs. This is me, this is who I am, and I deal with grief very inappropriately. Horrible comments and stuff I'll say sometimes. But anyway, the patterns of how mom shows, love, her sense of humor, her tendency to worry about others, those things they're still there, they persist. My background kind of helps me see and appreciate those continuities, even amidst all the change. Um, Understanding the neuroscience as much as I do anyway. I mean, I'm not a total nerd. It means I can sometimes kind of, what's a good word? Marvel is a good word. Marvel at the brain's attempts to compensate, to find the workarounds and to keep functioning even while, the systems are failing. It doesn't make the disease less terrible, but it adds kind of layers of complexity that can be fascinating even in the midst of heartbreak, if that makes sense. Yeah, so that's it for questions. So, next episode, this one's been a little bit long. Hopefully, next one will be a bit shorter. It's going to be a little bit different. So, I'm going to take a break from the Monday visits and go to something called Through the Fog. It's a section kind of where I step back from the narrative and offer more practical guidance about dementia itself. In the first Through the Fog section, I'm going to talk about what dementia actually is and what it isn't. I've had, people who have read my book say, I had no idea there were different kinds of dementia. I had no idea. So I do touch on that. I'll share some of the early signs we missed with mom, the emotional roller coaster that, comes with cognitive decline, and some practical approaches that have helped our family navigate through all of this crap. These Through the Fog sections are scattered throughout the book to kind of break up the chapters a bit, but also to provide context and guidance for anyone who's in the same crappy situation. If you're caring for someone with dementia or trying to understand what's happening to a loved one, I hope these sections kind of give you something practical to hold on to. And then after that, obviously, the next episode after that, we'll just kind of go back to the Monday visits, the real-time moments that make up the heart of the story. If this chapter resonated with you, if you're also navigating the impossible terrain of dementia caregiving, if you're struggling with questions about honesty and kindness, and if you cry in your car sometimes, I want you to know you're not alone. I want to hear about it. Share your stories, your questions, comments, hard moments that you might go through. This is a conversation I wish I'd had access to when I first started this journey. If you want to support the show, you know how I feel about this. I've already talked about it. Very uncomfortable, but requested and required. You can buy me a coffee at ko-fi.com, Unbound podcast. Links are below in the show notes, or just keep listening because, that means the world to me. And thank you for being here for the hard stuff alongside the beautiful things. And I will see you in the next episode.
Thanks for listening to Unbound with Beth Curry. Join the conversation in the Facebook group or visit author.bethcurry.com. Want to support the show? Head to ko-fi.com/unbound podcast. Until next time, stay unbound.